So I didn't do a good job filming that first inductor being installed, but here's the second one. What I do is I add quite a bit of solder actually to this one pad, so it's got a bit of a pillow on it. Let it cool off, and then add some flux to both of these pads. Quite a lot really. You kind of can't have too much flux in most cases. It'll look messy, but it definitely helps. So I've got my iron cranked way up to like 400 degrees. Then I'll just touch the end of this pad here and try and hold this as centered as possible and just apply slight downward pressure to it. And I'll just move the iron back and forth a little bit, and eventually that pad should melt and the inductor should sink into that puddle of solder. Might take quite a while, sometimes like 30 seconds or more for it to get up to temperature, because it is a fairly large inductor and it absorbs a lot of heat. At some point you'll see it sink in like it's doing now. You might be able to move it around, but if you do, be quite careful because it is easy to pull the pads off the bottom of the inductor. But you can get it in place so it's nicely centered and well stuck. If it's not centered well, you might have some trouble doing this other side, which is what happened up here on this one. It works, but it might take even a little bit longer because you don't have much room for the soldering iron to sit on. Ideally, when you do this second side, you should be able to do it just by heating from that pad in the middle, adding solder, and it should flow out the ends here. Sometimes you can just add solder to one of the ends to make sure it is up to temperature. But you should see it actually, I don't know if you can see it in camera, but it just kind of like wicked some out the end here, just from the capillary action. And the interesting thing is what will happen, the solder will actually flow out when it melts, but then when it sticks to the lead of the coil, suddenly that starts absorbing a lot more heat, and it'll actually re-harden the solder. So even though you've noticed it's wicked out the end, it's not actually securely attached yet. It's just made the initial weak contact. So you actually need to heat it for probably a good 20 seconds, 30 seconds more until you can actually melt solder at this end pad here, and then you know it's up to temperature. See this corner where it sticks out? Now we'll melt my solder. It's coming out the other end when I add some. So then it's done. You can take your iron off, let it cool, and the inductors are good to go.